being recorded.
Hello and welcome to the training on the Consolidated Youth Grant Program to address children and youth experiencing domestic violence and sexual assault and engaging men and boys as allies. So that's a pretty long title, so we are actually going to refer to the Consolidated Youth Program as CY throughout this presentation. Additionally, this particular training is for CY grantees that are engaging men projects. So that's grantees filling out the engaging men and youth in preventing sexual assault, domestic violence, dating violence, and stalking grant program progress report. So if you look at the split screen, we have the PowerPoint on one side, which we'll utilize in today's training, and then on the other is the reporting form that we will be going through, and is the one that Engaging Men's projects use. Before we begin, I just wanted to note that the reporting periods for this progress reporting form are January to June. The report is due 30 days after the close of the period on July 30th, and then the other period is July to December, and the reports are due January 30th, again 30 days after the close of the period. So before we begin, just wanted to start to talk a little bit about the importance of accurate reporting. And first and foremost, thank you for accessing our recording. We hope that this training enables you to provide the most detailed and accurate reporting of your grant-funded work on your semi-annual progress report. Accurate data reporting is important for many reasons. Your quantitative and qualitative data enables VAWA's effectiveness to be measured. So here at VAWA MEI, we create reports for OVW using your data and data from grantees across the country. These summary data reports support OVW to make requests for increased appropriations and to defend VAWA's budget to decision makers. Your data also helps OVW to make sure federal funds are being spent appropriately and to measure the performance of grant programs. Additionally, every 2 years, the Attorney General is required to submit a report to Congress on the overall effectiveness of VAWA funding. VAWA grantee data makes up a significant part of that mandated report. So the more consistently grantees fill out their reports, the more accurately VAWA's effectiveness can be measured through these means. Here are a few tips for successful data reporting. First and foremost, we encourage you to read the separate instructions. So if you go to our website, which will be detailed later in this PowerPoint, each grant program has both a sample GMS form as well as instructions that go over every question of the form. Additionally, if you're looking at the GMS, right over here you'll see a question mark. You'll see those throughout the form. You can click on those and the same instructions will appear and you'll be able to read up on that question, and then oftentimes examples are also provided. Next, we encourage you to use the other category only if no close fit exists. So if you're looking at the staff section and you have a staff person who you think kind of does the work of one of the listed categories, but it's not a great fit, we encourage you to put them in that closest fit category, because oftentimes when we aggregate the data and bring all of the grantee reports together, the other category is not included. So if you can find the closest fit, that means your data is getting included. However, we do understand there are instances where there just really isn't the right category. So in that case, please use other, and you can use the narrative to further detail that staff position or that activity or whatever other it is that you included. Next, use optional information questions to discuss successes or provide more detail. So you'll see at the end of each section of the form that there is a narrative question where you can expand on any of the data you reported, or maybe there was a particular activity that went really well and you wanted to write about that. It's entirely up to you. It is optional, but we do encourage you to use it to really help tell the story of your data. Next, we ask that you do not use acronyms or abbreviations. Here we can work together and try to guess what some of these acronyms mean that we see. Unfortunately, we're not always right. So if it's something like DV or SA, we understand that, but if there's an organization that has an acronym or a concept we're not familiar with, we ask that you please write that out at least once so that we can know what you're referencing. Also, we ask that you do not include attachments or extra documents as a way to report data. When we receive your GMS data, we're receiving just the progress report. We do not receive any of the attachments that you have the option to upload. So if you have data you want us to see, so maybe it's an evaluation that was done for one of your training events and you want to share those results, we ask that you put that in the narrative, because if you attach it, we aren't going to see that. Unfortunately, we don't get any of that information. So please include whatever you want or can into your progress report. And then finally, if you have questions about reporting or you want to work through anything particular to your grant program and how you would report that on the form, please give us a call or send us an email. We are always happy to help and work through situations or give more clarification about a question. Section A1, Grant Information. All grantees must complete this subsection. If you look at question 1, this is the date that you submitted your report in the GMS system. Questions 2, 3, and 4 will be pre-populated for you. So the current reporting period will be checked off, as well as the year will be there, and then your grantee name and grant number will appear. If these are not accurate, you'll want to contact the GMS system so they can make sure you're filling out the correct report. But usually this is accurate. Question 5 looks at type of grantee organization. So here you want to check one answer that best describes your agency or organization. If none of these options are a close fit, there is an other category where you can specify your grantee organization type. Question 5A is where you can further specify the type of grantee organization that you checked off in 5. So if there is particular information you would like to share or that makes your program unique, you will want to write that here. Question 6 is point of contact. So when you think about who you want to put here, you may want to put your administrator because they're the one who oversees the funding of the grant or says yes or no to particular activities. However, they may not necessarily be who knows the day-to-day work of the grant. So instead, when you're thinking about who to put in point of contact, think of the person who, if we call and have questions about the data reported, that they'll be able to answer our questions and they'll have a good feel for the activities and all the data that has been reported on the form. So each reporting period, if this individual has changed, you may want to think about updating your point of contact information so that we have the right person on file when we have questions about your data. Next is question 7. It asks if this is a faith-based organization. You will say yes or no. And then 8 looks at if the grant specifically addresses tribal populations. So here, if you check yes, you're going to describe which tribes or nations. We ask that you detail those tribes and nations instead of writing a response such as all the tribes in our area. Unfortunately, we don't know what tribes are in your area, so if you could please write out those names here, that would be ideal. It is only 75 characters, so if you run out of room, please feel free to continue in the back in the narrative questions. Question 9 looks at which culturally specific or underserved populations you specifically address. So here again, some more check boxes. And here you'll check off all of the appropriate categories. And then on the next page, 9A, is where you will be able to provide additional information about those particular populations. And then finally, question 10 asks about what percent of your Engaging Men and Youth Program funds were directed to the 4 areas: sexual assault, domestic violence, dating violence, and stalking. So this total must equal 100%. However, how you break up that percentage each period is up to you. It's up to what activities you're providing, what's the content or topics of your training or education events. So really, if you think about the work you're doing, you can then break apart these percentages between the 4 categories. As I said, all we ask is that it equals 100%. Section A2, Staff Information. If you use grant funding to provide staffing, you're going to check yes to this section and then proceed in filling it out. But before we go into some examples of that, I want to give you a few tips for reporting.